Welcome to the Everyday Conversion Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Severcrop, and I am just like you. I'm busy with work, family, kids, church, and a million other responsibilities. And honestly, some days I miss my personal scripture study and prayers. And some days we as a family miss our scripture study and prayer. But I'm trying. So if you're not perfect in living the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, but you're trying, we'll get along great, and this is the place for you. 5 days a week, I'll share a brief episode, often based on the Come Follow Me curriculum for that week that I'm using to have daily conversations with my kids, whether we're on our way to school or on our way home, or if it's real quick before dinner. And you're welcome to use them to do the same with your family or your personal study. Just know that the views and opinions I share are mine alone and do not represent the official doctrine and viewpoint of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now let's jump right in with today's episode. All right, welcome back to the Everyday Conversion Podcast. And this is episode 1 of season 2, where we are starting to study the Book of Mormon. And I gotta be honest, I am super excited about this year. I don't know why I'm super excited. I mean, I do, but it's like, man, why am I so much more excited than last year? But I think it's because I feel like I've kind of got the Come Follow Me thing figured out. You know, it seemed like last year it's like, okay, what's this gonna look like? How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna study? How is my family gonna study? And now this year it's like, okay, I've got the process down. Obviously, I'm still learning stuff. I'm still changing. I just saw actually an idea on Instagram the other day that I really, really like that I think we're going to implement as a family. But I feel like now it's just, okay, we get to dig in. You know, it's not a new program anymore. We've done this for a year. Now we get to dig in and utilize the program. And I'm super excited about it. And I actually have a really cool free gift that'll help you with your study that I'm going to share with you later on. But you can get the link to that and everything else we talk about today at everydayconversion.com/BOM1. So this year, all of the links will be BOM1, BOM2, BOM3 for season 2, where we're talking about the Book of Mormon. So as I was studying this morning, I wrote in my new study journal. I got my new study journal. I wrote down, and the first thing I wrote was, my first question is, why is the Book of Mormon so important to me? That was the most important thing I wanted to ask is, why is the Book of Mormon so important? So I pulled out a book that I got from a friend that they were getting rid of. They were kind of downsizing their scripture library. And so I got it for free, which was super awesome. But it's the book, A Witness and a Warning, from President Ezra Taft Benson. And I'm actually looking up right now. I'm curious if it's available on Amazon. It is. So I will link to this book in the show notes as well, so that you can get a copy. It's really, really good so far. But there's a couple of things I read in here that really stuck out to me as I was asking myself this question. And this is a book. It's a super short book. I think it's, let me see here, 80 pages long. And I'm going to read it over this coming week, just to really kind of get in the mindset of why the Book of Mormon is important, and what it has for me, what it has in store for me. And so as I was reading it, there's a few things that stuck out to me that I really, really liked and really kind of changed how I'm looking at my study this year. And the first one was something that I had known, but I don't think I had quite internalized yet. And it's the fact that the Book of Mormon was written for our day. It's something that we're always told, that we always think about, we always realize, but it really hit home just the way that President Benson talks about it. He says in the book, A Witness and a Warning, says, the Book of Mormon was written for us today. God is the author of the book. It is a record of a fallen people compiled by inspired men for our blessing today. And this is the part that really hit me. Those people never had the book. It was meant for us. And as I read that, I'm like, oh my goodness, right, you're right. Like it's a record of those people, but it wasn't written for them. It was never intended that they would see it. It wasn't compiled for them. It was compiled for us. And then he quotes Moroni in the Book of Mormon, inside the Book of Mormon, And it's something that I know I've read many times, but I never thought of it this way. But it's Mormon in the Book of Mormon. So Mormon chapter 8, verse 35, and it says, "Behold, I speak unto you as if you were present, and yet ye are not. But behold, Jesus Christ hath shown you unto me, and I know your doing." And as I read that, he quotes it in the book. I said, "Oh my goodness, the people who compiled this book." So Mormon, Moroni, probably the other prophets as well, but specifically those two who their job was to take all of the records, organize them, put what was important in the book, leave what wasn't important out. They saw us. They saw our day. They saw our trials. They saw our struggles. And Moroni actually goes into afterwards. He says, "Look, here's the things I see," and it really hit home that this book was written for us. It was written for us. And then later on in the same chapter, President Benson said, and I really like this, he says, "God, with his infinite foreknowledge, so molded the Book of Mormon that we might see the error and know how to combat false educational, political, religious, and philosophical concepts of our time." And I'm like, oh man, like this is the purpose of the Book of Mormon. It's a guidebook, it's a handbook for us in our day. God inspired Mormon and Moroni to compile it, and he inspired all the prophets to write the things that they wrote so that in our day we could have the things we needed in order to live the gospel. And that makes it very different than every other book of scripture. It's very different than the Bible. The Bible's really a historical record. It's a record of the dealings of the Jews throughout the world, and the Jews have had that book, and the house of Israel has had that book. But the express purpose of this one is specifically for our day, for the time that we're living in right now, for the trials and the challenges that we're facing right now, which means it has the answers to those trials and challenges. And that is really changed, as I was focusing and learning and studying. It really changed it. And then the next thing that I read that I really, really liked was the title of this episode. Do you want to learn more of Christ? President Benson says the Book of Mormon is the great standard we are to use. It shows that Joseph Smith was a prophet. It contains the word of Christ, and its great mission is to bring men to Christ, and all other things are secondary. And then this is what he says. He goes, "The golden question of the Book of Mormon is, do you want to learn more of Christ? Do you want to learn more of Christ?" The golden question, the main thing that it will teach you. And I started thinking about that as far as like sharing the Book of Mormon with people, with friends and family that aren't members. It's like, look, this is really what you're offering them when you give them a Book of Mormon. You're saying, do you want to learn more of Christ? Do you want to get to know him better? Do you want to understand his desires and his hopes and dreams and goals and aspirations for you better? Do you want to know why he says what he does? Do you want to know what he has for his people? That's what the Book of Mormon does. And I love that quote. The golden question of the Book of Mormon is, do you want to learn more of Christ? Love that. It's just great. It's fantastic. And then there's one last thing that I want to share with you, but I'm going to wait. I'm not going to do it yet. So I dug in. My family and I last night read the title page of the Book of Mormon. We always start our Come Follow Me for the week on Sunday night because it's a time that we have to get together and to talk about it and to spend time, with sports and activities and school and everything else, which we haven't started school yet. Well, they'll start again next week, but we always start on Sunday night. And we just read some of that week's lesson. We talk about it a little bit, and we do our best to really set up that week. So we read through the title page, and then I read it through again this morning. And the things that we talked about last night, the things I thought about this morning is one of the things I always forget, because after, a couple pages after the title page, you have things that were added by Joseph Smith. You have the introduction, which was added by the First Presidency. I can't remember exactly when, but added by the First Presidency. You have the testimony of the 3 witnesses and the 8 witnesses, which is obviously written by them. You have the testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith, which was obviously written by him. You have the brief explanation of the Book of Mormon, which was written for our edition of the Book of Mormon. But what I always remind myself of is the title page of the Book of Mormon was written by Mormon or Moroni. Can't remember which one it is, but it was a part of the plates. It was translated from the plates. And that changes, to me, it changes what it is, because this is what Mormon said the purpose of the book was. As he was compiling it, as he was putting it together, as he was reviewing things, these are the focuses that he had. And in the second paragraph of the title page, it shares what the purpose is. You know, it talks about the first part, it says it's an abridgment of the record of the people of Nephi and also of the Lamanites. The second paragraph starts off, it's an abridgment taken from the book of Ether, which is a record of the people of Jared. And then it says, which is to show unto the remnant of the house of Israel what great things the Lord hath done for their fathers, and that they may know the covenants of the Lord, that they are not cast off forever, and also to the convincing of the Jew and Gentile that Jesus is the Christ, the eternal God, manifesting himself unto all nations. So those are the three main purposes of the Book of Mormon. And the thing that stuck out to me was nowhere does it say this is a historical record. You know, it says it's an abridgment of the record, but it doesn't say that the purpose is to teach us history. The purpose isn't to teach us about a specific person or a specific event or a specific time. Its purpose is to teach us the great things God has done for those before us, to teach us the covenants of the Lord, and to teach us that Jesus is the Christ. The most important things we can learn from it. And then the last thing that I really like from the title page is where Mormon says, and now if there are faults, they are the mistakes of men. Wherefore condemn not the things of God, that you may be found spotless at the judgment seat of Christ. So he says, look, we're men, we're normal, we're humans. We're not perfect. If there are faults here, it is not because the book is not perfect, because the teachings aren't perfect. It's because we're human, because we make mistakes. And that really hit home to me. It's like, you know, I think sometimes it's easy to put Mormon or Moroni or Nephi on a pedestal, and we forget that they were men and that they had trials and struggles and they had to learn just like we did. That's an important thing for us to remember. So the final thing I wanted to share with you is a quote right at the end of the first chapter of A Witness and a Warning. And I want to share this with you because it's a very powerful promise and a warning, actually. He says, every Latter-day Saint should make the study of this book a lifetime pursuit. Otherwise, he is placing his soul in jeopardy and neglecting that which could give spiritual and intellectual unity to his whole life. There is a difference between a convert who is built on the rock of Christ through the Book of Mormon and stays hold of that iron rod, and one who is not. It's a powerful promise and a powerful warning that if we don't make the study of the Book of Mormon foundational in a lifelong pursuit, we're placing our soul in jeopardy. It's a powerful, powerful statement. So as we begin this year's study, I had a thought, and this is what I wanted to share with you. This is something free that I'm going to share with you. Just, you know, you can enter your email and tell me where to send it to you, and I will send it to you. But it's a bookmark for the Book of Mormon. As I was studying the title page, I thought, man, I really would love to just make a sticky note that I could put every day in the Book of Mormon that would remind me of those purposes, that would remind me that this isn't a historical record. I'm not reading it to learn what Nephi did first and then what he did second and then what he did after that. I'm reading it to learn those three things: the great things God has done for those before us, the covenants of the Lord, and that Jesus is the Christ. And I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to have a sticky note. And I was like, man, sticky note, why don't I just make a bookmark? And so I made a bookmark. And you can click through in the show notes at everydayconversion.com/BOM for Book of Mormon, BOM1. And you can see this bookmark. I took a picture of it to show you. It's nothing fancy, but my goal, and I printed out one for each of my family members, my goal is that I'm going to use this as my bookmark. Yeah, there's the cool ribbons, but I'm going to use this as my bookmark. So every time I open up the Book of Mormon to read it, I am reminded of the purposes of the Book of Mormon. I'm reminded why it was written, why Mormon put in what he did, why he compiled and abridged what he did, so that I don't forget that as I'm studying this year. And if you'd like a copy, you can get one. And you can go to everydayconversion.com/bookmark. and you can enter your email there and tell me where to send it to you, and I will send you a PDF that you can download or print and print off your own bookmark. And there's actually 4 on that page. So if you want to print it off and share some with your kids or with your spouse or with friends or with your class at church, whatever you want to do, you can do that there. And I would love for you to share those with people. But also, I would encourage you to send them to everydayconversion.com/bookmark to get theirs as well. Because then I can share that with them. And then also when you enter your email there will also be on the thank you page this episode, which you're obviously listening to already. But that episode will be there for anybody that isn't already listening to the podcast. They can hear why I created this bookmark so that they can learn more about the podcast as well and get the help with studying. So again, everydayconversion.com/bookmark to get your free Book of Mormon bookmark that you can use to remind yourself every day of why the Book of Mormon was written and what you should look for and hope to get out of it as you read every single page of that book. So again, the links to everything we talked about today are at everydayconversion.com/BOM1. And you can get the links to everything we talked about today, including the bookmark. And I look forward to sharing more of my studies with the Book of Mormon with you. I'm super excited for 2020 and being able to dig into the Book of Mormon. And we will see you in episode 2.
All right, that's it for today. Now, I know you want to hang out with me longer, but we both have a ton of things to do today, including living the gospel and trying to be like Jesus. Cue primary children singing.
I'm trying to be like Jesus.
But hey, if you want to get the links to everything we talked about today, you can find it on the episodes page of everydayconversion.com. You can also do cool stuff like subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast listening platform, sign up for email notifications of new episodes, and connect with us on social media there. It's kind of like a virtual church library without the militant librarians or a piece of paper to sign out your 3 tiny pieces of chalk for your lesson. Also, just remember, I do my best to make sure my opinions are in line with official church doctrine, but they are just that. They're my opinions. For official doctrine and viewpoints, I recommend you go to churchofjesuschrist.org or comeuntochrist.org.